Red light from the alarm crystal flashed across the stone floor when the dragon moved. Chains rattled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Mira froze, her small hands still pressed against the creature's cold scales. The young dragon lay curled in the center of the hidden chamber. Iron cuffs around its legs and neck, heavy links running to metal hooks in the floor. For months, it had been nothing but a dark shape in a deep sleep. Tonight, it twitched. Boots pounded on the stairs above. Angry voices shouted orders. "Open the lower gate. Council says we end it now." They were coming to kill the dragon. Myra's fingers trembled on its chest. Under her palm, she felt a heartbeat. Slow, weak. Then, with the next alarm flash, it beat in time with her own. A faint glow spread under her hand, not from the alarm crystal. From the dragon, soft gold light traced the lines of its scales like waking fire. One eyelid lifted. A crack of bright, inhuman yellow stared back at her in the dark. "Mira." A guard shouted from the stair. "Step away from the beast." She could still move. She could step back, run to the door, pretend she had never come here. Instead, she pressed her hand harder over the dragon's heart. Its eye opened fully. Something ancient, heavy and alive rushed into her mind, and the awakening began. Hours earlier, the chamber had been quiet. The city above hummed with normal life, vendors calling in the market, carts rattling over stone streets, temple bells ringing out the evening prayer. No one on the bright streets wanted to think about what slept deep below their feet. No one except Mira. She walked quickly along the side of the main square, keeping one hand on the temple wall. The stone felt warm through her fingers. People moved around her, carrying baskets, closing stalls, lighting lanterns as the sky turned purple. "Stay away from the lower halls," an old woman warned a child nearby. "There's a monster under there. One day it will wake up and burn us all," the child gasped. Mira looked down, hiding her face under her hood. A monster, she thought. Or a prisoner. She had heard the same story since she was small. A dragon had been captured during the last great fire, dragged down under the temple, and bound with holy chains. It was kept asleep, watched by priests and guards. Most people were happy with that story. For Mira, it felt wrong. Sometimes, when storms rolled over the city and thunder shook the towers, she heard something else under the sound. A long, low cry that seemed to come from the stone itself. A sound that made her chest ache. No one else reacted. Only her. She reached the side door of the temple, slipped inside before anyone could stop her. The air was cooler here, filled with candle smoke and the smell of old incense. Golden lamps lit the main hall, but the stair to the lower levels was kept in shadow. A wooden bar and a warning sign blocked the top step. No entry. By order of the council, Mira's heart beat faster. She had promised herself she would not come back. She had already crept down here too many times. If the guards caught her again, they would tell the council. Her uncle would lose his work at the glass shop, but the storm this afternoon had been strong. The phantom cry under the thunder had been louder than ever. It still rang in her ears even now, hours later. Like a question waiting for an answer, she stepped over the bar. The stone stairs were cold and rough under her boots. With each step down, the sounds of the city faded. The air grew heavy and damp. At the bottom, a single blue crystal burned on the wall, just bright enough to show the iron door ahead. Behind that door, chained in darkness, was the reason her life had never felt like it belonged only to her. Mira slipped her hand into the crack between stone and metal. She had learned the trick weeks ago. Press there, then lift. The old lock clicked. The door opened just enough for her thin body to pass through. The chamber was large, but low. Iron hooks, chains, and burned symbols covered the floor. In the middle, the dragon slept, curled like a huge black cat, wings folded tight, scales dim in the crystal light. Mira walked closer, heart pounding. She knew every line of its shape by now. The curve of its horns, the scars on its neck, the place where its ribs moved very lightly with each slow breath. Hi again, she whispered, voice shaking. It's just me. The girl who shouldn't be here? No answer, of course. Dragons did not speak. Still, she talked. She told it about the market, and the new songs the street players tried, and how the council had announced something frightening that morning at moonrise tonight. The danger below the temple will be ended. Ended. Everyone had cheered. Everyone except Mira. She reached the dragon's side and laid her hand gently against its chest, right where she had always felt the faint heartbeat. If they come to end you, she whispered, I don't want you to die without anyone ever touching you kindly. So I'll stay. Just for a little while. The heartbeat under her palm thumped once, then once more, stronger. The blue crystal on the wall shifted to red. The alarm began to flash above. Bells rang, fast and sharp.
Mira, she breathed to herself, fear rising like cold water. What, did you just wake up?
Deep in the dragon's chest, something old stirred, far above. The boots of the guards started down the stairs, and in that exact moment, a single yellow eye opened in the dark. Asterisk, the yellow eye stared at her. It glowed in the dark. Fixed on Mira's hand pressed to the dragon's chest, under her palm, a slow heartbeat thumped. The scales were warm now, not dead and cold. The alarm crystal over the door flashed fast red. Boots pounded on the stair outside. Lower chamber, open up. A guard shouted, by order of the council. Myra's legs wanted to run. Her hand did not move. It's okay, she whispered, though it was not. They're coming. They think you're a monster. Please. Don't give them a reason. Dragon's pupil narrowed, a thin black line in the gold. It drew another breath that smelled of smoke and ash. The lock rattled. Mira. Captain Darren's voice boomed. If you're in there, step away from the creature now. The heartbeat under her palm thumped again. For a moment it matched her own. The dragon tried to shift. Chains scraped. Symbols on the metal cuffs flared harsh white. Pain hit the creature. A slice of that pain cut into Myra. Fire shot up her arm and into her chest. She gasped and almost fell, but her hand stayed on the scales. The lock clicked. The door flew open. Torchlight and alarm red poured into the chamber. 3 guards rushed in with spears raised. Behind them came a priest in gold and white robes, a glowing crystal on his staff. They all stopped. A young dragon lay in chains, one golden eye open. A thin girl stood at its heart with her hand on its chest. Mira, Captain Darren said, rough and low. You shouldn't be here. She swallowed. Someone had to be. The priest lifted his staff. The crystal burned brighter. Step away from it, child, he said. The council has decided. At moonrise, the danger under this temple will be ended forever. It's not a danger, Mira said. Her fingers curled tighter on the dragon. It's a prisoner. The priest's eyes hardened. Dragons burned our farms and cities. They are not prisoners. They are punishment. The dragon's gaze slid to him, then back to her. A low sound rumbled in its throat, more question than growl. Mira's heart hammered. She felt its heartbeat match hers again. Quick now. You feel it too, don't you? She whispered we're connected somehow. The priest heard. His face went pale. Dragon touched. He breathed. The beast has its claws in her mind. One guard shifted his grip. Captain, what if she's right? Look at it. It can barely move. And if it wakes, the priest snapped. If it breaks its bonds, one breath, and we all burn. He pointed the staff at the dragon's head. The crystal's light tightened into a thin beam. The dragon hissed and flinched. Heat bit into Mira's arm where her skin met its scales, as if the light struck her too. Stop, she shouted. You're hurting it. Captain Darren's jaw clenched. He looked from priest to dragon to girl. Orders are orders, he said, but the steel was weak now. Pull her back. Then we finish this. A guard stepped in and grabbed Mira's shoulder. The dragon moved. Its head snapped around. Chains screamed. A deep growl shook dust from the ceiling. The guard jerked his hand away. The priest raised his staff higher. Then we are too late for mercy. We end it now. Mira spun to face him, still not breaking contact with the dragon. Fear raced through her. And something else. For one heartbeat, she was not in the chamber. She was flying. Wind rushed past her face. The stone towers of the city lay tiny below. Bright sky spread around her, held up by the slow beat of huge wings. She blinked. The vision vanished. The ache to be back in that sky stayed in her chest. That wasn't my thought, she whispered. Another feeling brushed her mind. The same room, but empty. No chains, no hooks. Clean stone. A single wish with it calling out. The dragon wanted out. Mira, Captain Duran said again, softer. Please. Let go. She shook her head. If I let go, you'll kill it. That is the point, the priest said coldly. Step aside, girl, began to chant. The crystal flared white-hot. Light pooled into a small, burning point aimed straight at the dragon's heart. The dragon's eye locked on the point. Mira felt its fear slam into her like cold water. Her lungs squeezed. Her hand burned on its scales. Her body moved before she could think. She stepped between the staff and the dragon. Arms spread wide, blocking the line of light with her own thin frame. The priest broke off mid-word. Child, what are you doing? What no one else will, she said, voice shaking but clear. I'm choosing. For a moment, no one spoke. The alarm crystal beeped. The dragon's rough breath rasped in and out. Then, inside her head, she heard it. A sound like distant thunder whispered through her bones. Not a word, not a roar, but full of meaning. Stay, her breath caught. She looked back. The dragon's golden eye burned with sharp focus. Its jaws had not moved, but she understood. Stay. Not a command. A plea. Mira faced the priest again. The dragon's fate is in my hands now, she said. If you want to end it, you'll have to go through me. The chamber stayed frozen for one long breath. Mira stood between the glowing staff and the chained dragon. Arms spread, her back to the creature. No one moved, child, the priest said at last. You don't understand what you're protecting. Mira's voice shook, but she kept it steady. I understand it's alive, and you're about to burn its heart while it can't even stand. Captain Darren's grip tightened on his spear. He looked from the dragon to the girl, then to the priest. The dragon's low growl rolled through the stone. Mira felt it in her ribs, like a second heartbeat. For a moment the sound carried pictures against cold air, falling, chains snapping shut. It remembers, she whispered. Not burning cities, falling, being trapped. The priest's jaw clenched. Of course it remembers. Dragons remember every sin they commit. He lifted his staff. Light at the tip grew hot and tight. A sharp pain stabbed under Mira's palm. Right where she touched the dragon's chest. She gasped. The dragon flinched too, as if the beam already hurt. Priest Halvar, Captain Duran said, if they're linked, killing it might hurt the girl. Halvar's eyes flicked to Mira's pale face. The light dimmed a little. Pain will pass. A living dragon will not. For he could speak the killing words. Another voice came from the hall. Calm, older. Hold. The guard stepped aside as an old woman in dark blue robes walked in. Silver thread forming the council crest across her chest. Hi, counselor. Mira swallowed hard. Vern took in the sight in one glance. The staff, the chains, the girl with her hand on the dragon's heart. So the rumor was true, she said. The storm child sneaks below our feet. Mira blinked. Storm child? The one who hears voices and thunder, Vern said softly. I wondered why the dreams grew stronger these last years. She stopped a few steps from Mira. Up close, Mira could see the tired lines around her eyes. You say its fate is in your hands, Varen said. Why should we trust you with it? Mira's fingers dug into the warm scales. Because no one else even wants to hear its side. You've heard 1,000 human stories about dragons. You haven't heard one dragon story, and you have. Halvar snapped. Not all, Mira said. but pieces. When I touch it, I see things, feel things. Falling, chains, fear, I think. It sees mine too. Varen studied her. What do you feel from it now? Mira closed her eyes. She let the noise of the room fall away and listened to the beat under her hand. Heat, pain where metal bit flesh, a tight knot of fear. But under that, a single, heavy wish out of a picture came with it. The temple above. The city lights, hills rolling away, and far, far off, a line of mountains wrapped in cloud. Then darkness pressing down from all sides. Trapped. It doesn't want to burn us, Myra said slowly. It wants to get out from under us. Halvar made a bitter sound. Of course, that's what it wants her to believe. Varen lifted a hand. He fell silent. Dragons burned my mother's village, she said quietly. I watched fire take the roofs. I still ordered this one kept sleeping, not killed. Does that surprise you, child? Yes, Mira said. Good, Varen answered. You still expect better from us than we expect from ourselves. To outside. The deep bell rang 3 slow times. Moonrise, the hour the council had named too, and the danger under the temple. Vern turned to Halvar. We will not kill it tonight. Halvar stared. The vote was taken without knowing we had bound one of our own to it, Vern said. You will call the council again. Until then, the dragon lives. The girl lives. No one harms either without my word. Captain Daron let out a breath. Mira's knees almost gave out. The heartbeat under her hand slowed, just a little. Viren's eyes returned to Mira. Listen well, she said. From this moment, if a single spark from that throat harms this city, I will not blame chains or old wars. I will look only at you. Myra swallowed. I understand. Then understand this too, Varen said. She met the dragon's golden eye, unflinching. A dragon's fate is in your hands now, Stormchild. And so is ours. The dragon's low rumble answered her. Softer this time. For the first time since the creature was dragged below the temple, humans left the chamber without turning their backs on it, and Mira stayed, palm on its heart. Feeling 2 heartbeats settle into the same slow rhythm in the dark. Asterisk, the chamber felt. Different after they left. The alarms were silent now. The red crystal over the door had cooled to soft blue again. The chains still held. The burned symbols still glowed faintly. But the air did not feel dead anymore. Mira kept her hand on the dragon's chest. The heartbeat under her palm was slow and strong, like a heavy drum. Sometimes it skipped, then matched her own again, as if it were listening for her rhythm. You scared them, she whispered. You almost scared me. The dragon's golden eye blinked once. Heat moved under its scales, not hot enough to burn. Just warm enough to remind her there was fire inside. Her arm still ached where the priest's light had bitten both of them. When she looked down, faint red mark, like a thin line of lightning, ran from her wrist, toward her elbow. She wasn't sure the mark was only hers. Tied together, she murmured. A picture slid across her mind. Not words, not a full memory, just a fast flash. The same mark, brighter. Running up a scaled foreleg instead of an arm. Her breath caught. Is this how your kind used to link to each other? For a moment, she felt something like surprise. It wasn't hers. It came from the dragon. Then another image. A high peak in storm clouds. 3 dragons circling, lines of red light connecting them like threads. Underneath the outline of a city that was not hers, she swayed. Her free hand shot out to steady herself on the chain. Slow down, she whispered. My head is smaller than yours. The dragon's eye narrowed, amused for half a heartbeat. Boots thudded overhead against softer this time. Voices murmured. The council was gathering sooner than promised. They're going to argue about you, Mira said. About us. She imagined the high hall above, filled with robes and heavy rings and old hurt. Some would say kill it, some would say study it. Very few would say set it free. Another feeling rolled through her from the dragon, a wave of cold stone. Sharp iron, hands pushing its head down. No, she said quickly. I won't let them chain you worse than this. If I have to stand in front of them too, I will. The dragon watched her in the half-light. A small curl of smoke slipped from its nostrils. It did not smell of anger, only tired fire. Mira forced herself to pull her hand away. At once she felt hollow, like someone had walked out of a room inside her ribs. The dragon's eye closed halfway, then opened again, slower. So the bond fades if I'm not touching you, she said. Good. Maybe that will keep us both alive. She walked a short circle around its chained body, careful of the symbols on the floor. Band after band of metal bit into scale and skin. What did they do to you before they brought you here? She asked. No answer this time. Only a sharp, hot jab in her shoulder, as if something heavy had struck her from above. She stumbled. A picture came with the pain. Sky suddenly full of bright spears rising from human towers. Heat on one wing. The ground rushing up too fast. She put a hand over her eyes until the dizziness passed. Enough, she said gently. Rest. I'm still learning how much of you I can hold. Far above, a bell rang once. The sound echoed down through stone like a warning. Mira flinched. The dragon rumbled, tiny sparks dancing between its teeth. I have to go, she said. If I don't, they'll come drag me out, and that will end badly for both of us. She stepped back toward the door. The further she moved, the colder the room felt. The dragon's eye followed her every step. At the doorway, she stopped and looked over her shoulder. You need a name, she said. They call you Danger and Beast, and that doesn't feel right. A sense of old pride brushed her mind mountains. Storms. A roar that shook the sky. The sound that came with it wasn't a human word. It was a feeling. Rising fire, stone breaking, wind. Mira tried to shape it with her tongue and failed. She laughed once, quietly. If I try to say that, I'll bite my own tongue in half. She thought for a moment, then nodded. Until I can speak your true name, she said. I'll call you Flint, because they buried you under stone and still couldn't put your fire out. The dragon blinked once, slow. Warmth stirred inside her chest that wasn't only hers. Flint, then she whispered. When she left the chamber and pulled the iron door shut, the blue crystal above it, dimmed up, did not go out. The heartbeat echo in her ears kept going all the way up the stairs. The temple's upper hall was full when she reached it. Counselors sat in a half circle, High Counselor Verna at the center. Priest Halvar stood near the front, staff in hand. Captain Derone leaned by a pillar, helmet tucked under his arm. Jaw tight, every eye turned toward Mira. There she is, someone whispered. The dragon-touched girl. Mira's new mark itched under her sleeve. Viren's gaze settled on her. Step forward, Mira, she said. We have questions. Mira stepped onto the worn circle of stone in the center of the hall. It felt like standing at the edge of a tall roof with no rail. Halvar spoke first. What did it show you? He demanded. Has it tried to trick you with pretty pictures of peace? Mira met his eyes. It showed me chains. Falling. Fear. Nothing pretty. That proves nothing, he snapped. It knows fear is the one tool that can move you. Vern lifted a hand. Let her speak, she said. Then we will decide. Mira swallowed and glanced up at the high windows. Storm clouds gathered in the darkening sky. Thunder rolled far away. Below, in the stone and chains, another rumble answered quiet. Only in her bones. 2 minds. 1 flame. The dragon is not sleeping by choice, she said. It's trapped. Hurt. And something about me woke it up. Murmurs rippled through the hall, and if waking it up wakes others? Vern asked. If you are a key, not a chain? Mira thought of the vision on the mountain, 3 dragons linked by lines of light. She didn't lie. Then that is something we need to understand, she said. Before someone else uses it first. Halvar's eyes flashed. Someone else. You speak as if there are other cities foolish enough to keep dragons alive. Thunder cracked sharper overhead. Mira felt a tiny flare of heat under her skin. Flint's attention brushed her mind, waiting. They may not keep them alive, she said softly. They may be trying to kill the last of them, or to wake them for war. Either way, Pretending this bond doesn't exist won't save us. Silence filled the hall. Varen leaned back in her chair, thinking hard, gaze on the storm outside. "This is what I propose," she said at last. "The dragon stays chained. The girl stays under watch. No killing. No more torture. We study this link. If it can be broken, we learn how. If it can be used, we decide who holds that power." Her eyes, old and sharp, locked on Mira. "And until we know," Varen finished, "you do not go near it alone again." Mira's heart dropped. Her hand ached with the memory of scales under her palm. In her mind, Flint's distant growl rose in, happy, restless. "Understood," Mira said. But the word tasted like ash, because even as she spoke it, she knew one thing for certain. The next time the storm voices called her below, she would answer, with or without their permission. The city did not feel the same after that night. People still bought bread, swept steps, and argued in the market. But when Mira walked by, voices dropped. Eyes followed her, dragon-touched. Someone whispered, "Stormchild," another said, half afraid, half curious. Children who used to play with her now hid behind their parents. A boy pointed at her sleeve. "Mama, is that where the dragon bit her?" Mira pulled her arm close. The thin red mark under her skin still glowed faintly when storms rolled in. At the glass shop, her Uncle Jaren tried to pretend nothing had changed. He handed her a broom. "Sweep slower near the door," he said. "If the council watchers see you busy, maybe they won't drag you in every hour." He tried to smile. It did not reach his eyes. "Do you think I'm dangerous?" she asked. He paused. Glass dust shone on his hands. "I think," he said slowly. "This city is very good at calling the wrong things dangerous." Thunder grumbled far off over the hills, deep under the temple. Something answered with a low, distant rumble only she could hear. Flint. They did drag her in again. The high hall felt colder now. Counselor Vern looked more tired. Priest Halvar looked more certain. "We watched the link," Halvar said, tapping his staff. "When she sleeps, it stirs. When she laughs, it growls. When it dreams, she tosses." "So they are tied," Varen said. "We knew this." Halvar's mouth thinned. "The bond is growing, Counselor. If it snaps, we lose a monster. If it holds, we may lose a city." He turned to Mira. "What did it show you last night?" Mira held his gaze. Snow, mountains, a nest of stones with no eggs in it. Wind howling through empty places. Halvar said, "Sad scenes to win a soft heart." Varen raised a hand. "Enough. Until we know more, we keep them both alive." "That was the agreement? For how long?" Halvar asked. "Until the next fire? Until the next dragon wakes somewhere else?" His words left a chill in the hall. Mira walked out feeling as if ropes had been tied around her chest, pulling in 3 directions at once. That night, the storm came closer. Rain slammed against roofs. Lightning lit the sky white. Thunder rolled through the stones. Mira lay awake on her narrow bed in the room above the glass shop. Every crack of thunder brought a second echo inside her mind. Deeper and slower. Mira. The feeling was not a word, but it had her name inside it. She sat up. "Flint," she whispered into the dark. Cold images poured into her thoughts. More dragons in more chambers. Some already still and gray, some shaking in chains as bright lights burned into their chests. Humans in armor walked past them with hard faces and empty eyes. "No," she breathed. "Not here?" One clear picture followed. Priest Halvar and 3 strangers in black coats, standing over Flint. The strangers held metal rods like spears. Symbols on the floor burned hotter than before. "Dawn." Mira's single quotes, her heart thudded. Halvar had said they would study the link. He had never promised not to break it by breaking Flint. Lightning flashed again. She swung her legs off the bed. Jaren's soft snore came from the next room. She wrote a quick line on a scrap of paper and left it on the table. "I'm sorry. I have to try." Then she pulled on her boots and her dark cloak and slipped into the rain. The temple guards did not expect anyone to come down the hill in a storm. They huddled in the doorway, cloaks pulled tight, talking about dry beds and hot stew. Mira moved along the side wall, keeping to the deepest shadows. Her cloak turned dark in the rain. When thunder cracked, it covered the small sound of her feet. Inside, the temple hall was empty. Every candle burned low. The stair to the lower levels sat in darkness, the warning board still across it. Mira stepped over it. Again, she knew the way by heart now. 12 steps, then a turn. Another 12. Then the blue light. Only this time, the glow under the temple was not soft crystal blue. It was hard. Bright white dot heat pushed up the stair. Her stomach knotted. She ran at the bottom. The iron door stood half open. Harsh light spilled through the gap. Voices murmured inside. If the link is in the heart, then cutting the heart frees the mind, one of the strangers said. Halvar answered, We begin at first light. The council will accept what is already done. Myra's hand shook on the door. Her sleeve brushed it, and the red mark on her arm flared. Under her skin, Flint's fear slammed into her like a wave. Out. Now, she pushed the door wider and slipped in. Flint lay flat on the stone, chains tighter than before. New rods of metal stood around him, humming with power. The burned symbols on the floor burned brighter, like lines of fire. Halvar and the black-coated strangers stood at a table, covered in notes and blades. They spun around. You were ordered to stay away. Halvar snapped. You were ordered not to kill him, Mira shot back. You just changed the time. One stranger stepped forward. His eyes were calm and cold. The bond runs both ways, he said. If the dragon feels what the girl feels, and the girl feels what the dragon feels, then pain on one side should shape the other. Imagine an army of your people, each with a dragon tied to their will. Mira's stomach turned. You want to make more like me? Halvar's silence was answer enough. Flint's eye rolled toward her, wild and bright. Pain burned in the space between them. Out. The feeling pushed again. Out, out, out. Myra stepped over the nearest glowing line. Heat licked her boots. She ignored it and went to Flint's chest. Mira. Halvar shouted. Do not touch it. She slapped her palm against the warm scales. The world narrowed to fire. Chains bit deeper into flesh. Symbols stabbed like needles. Her own back arched, as if metal had wrapped around her ribs. Stop, she gasped. Let me help or you'll kill us both anyway. Flint's heartbeat thundered under her hand. She did not show it pictures this time. She showed only one feeling, running through a dark tunnel, cold air ahead. Sky at the end. Out for the first time, he understood before she did. Heat surged up from his chest into her arm. The red mark burned like a hot brand. Light crawled along the chains, then burst. Iron links flew like sparks. The humming rods shattered. One flew past Mira's shoulder and slammed into the wall, inches from Halvar's head. The strangers dove for cover. The floor shook. Alarm. Someone screamed. Flint heaved himself up, wings half open, eyes blazing. Smoke poured from his mouth. Mira clung to his neck, coughing. Tunnel, she whispered inside the whirlwind of heat and light. Old tunnels under the east wall, my uncle told me. Go. He didn't know the word, but he knew the feeling. She sent the map in her mind. The turn, the slope. The dragon took one step, then another. Chains snapped behind them. Fire licked the ceiling. Temple bells exploded into wild ringing. By the time the first guards reached the bottom of the stairs, all they saw was a broken chamber, a furious priest, and a hole smashed through the far wall. Leading into black stone and the sound of a dragon forcing its way into the deep, Mira pressed her cheek to Flint's scales as they crashed into the dark. For the first time, he was moving toward freedom. For the first time, she was truly hunted. Stone, heat, and noise. That was all Myra knew as Flint tore through the old tunnel. Shoulders scraping rock, wings crushed tight to his sides. Broken chains dragged and snapped behind them like thunder. She clung to the ridge of scales along his neck. Dust burned her throat. Every time his claws hit buried metal, sparks flashed in the dark. Behind them, temple bells screamed. Somewhere above, the whole city was waking to the words, "The dragon escaped." "Faster," she whispered. Though he was already almost scraping the ceiling, he answered with a burst of hot breath. Rough with effort, not anger. The light from the chamber faded. Darkness closed around them, broken only by the dull red glow under her skin and the soft ember light in Flint's throat. The tunnel widened. The ceiling lifted. Old bricks and faded carvings showed through the rough stone. An old road, Mira coughed. Before the temple, before the city, a thought brushed her mind that was not hers. The same tunnel long ago, smooth and wide, blue fire and lamps along the walls. A smaller dragon walked beside robed humans. No chains anywhere. Then the picture vanished like breath on glass. "You remember this place?" she whispered. Warm agreement pulsed through the bond. New sounds chased them from behind. Boots on stone. Metal clattering, voices echoing. There. Light ahead. A guard shouted. Blue crystal glow flickered at the far end as soldiers poured into the passage. "Go," Mira urged. Flint ducked and pushed forward. The old road bent upward. Water dripped from the ceiling. A thin breath of cold air touched Mira's sweaty face, almost out. She said, then her vision blurred. Her skull rang as if someone had struck a bell inside it. A wave of thoughts that were not hers crashed through her mind. For a heartbeat, she was high over a black ocean, riding another dragon, salt spray on her lips. Then she was in a pit ringed with spears. Then hanging in chains in a metal room, strange stars outside a tiny window. Flint stumbled. His claws shrieked against rock. "Stop!" she gasped. "Too much." "Slow down." He dropped to a crouch, sides heaving. Mira slid to the floor, back pressed to his warm scales. She gripped her marked arm with her other hand, as if she could hold all the noise inside one place. "What was that?" she whispered. The answer came as a simple pattern in the bond. Not words. A feeling not only me. Images followed, slower now. Other dragons, some flying under strange moons. Some curled in sleep, some chained like Flint, but in different rooms, under different symbols. In every scene, thin red line ran from the dragon's chest into unseen darkness. Mira realized she was holding her breath. She let it out in a shaky laugh. "You're linked to others," she said. "Like a web." He showed her more. A stone dragon carved into a cold mountain, eyes closed, but a faint glow in its chest. A desert city with a dragon's bones raised as a warning, yet a tiny spark hiding in the hollow heart. A deep green forest where a dragon slept under roots. Trees grown through its folded wings. Each one gave off a dim echo, like broken notes of the same fading song. Last ones. The feeling said, scattered, fading. Mira's throat tightened. "How many are left?" His answer was only hot sadness. Not enough. Shouts rang closer. "Halt. By order of the council, stop." Bolts of blue light hissed down the tunnel and splashed over Flint's tail. He snarled, smoke bursting from his teeth. The pain jumped through the bond. Myra's spine burned as if the shot had hit her too. She spun and threw up. Her marked arm, without thinking, red light flared under her skin. For one heartbeat, a thin gold shield snapped across the tunnel. The next bolt hit it and skidded off into the ceiling. Stone cracked. Rocks crashed down in a rough wall between them and the guards. Both sides froze. Mira stared at her own arm. "I can shield now, too." Flint's answer came as a sharp, pleased pulse. He shifted to block falling stone from hitting her, then lowered his head so their eyes met, in her mind. A new picture formed. Mira, standing before many dragons, arm raised. The same red mark, blazing like a signal fire. "No," she said out loud. "I'm just one person. I barely stood in front of your council, and you want me to stand in front of everyone." The picture did not fade. Cool wind pushed harder from ahead, bringing the smell of night and open sky. "If I help you wake them," she said quietly, "humans will panic. They'll see fire and wings and remember only old stories. Fire, wings, chains, fear then a small, a stubborn spark of hope rolled together in the bond. If you do nothing, they fade," the feeling answered. "If you move, maybe they live." Boots crunched over loose stone behind them as guards fought their way past the fallen rocks after them. Someone yelled, "Don't let the beast reach open air." Mira held Flint's gaze. Her heart hammered in her chest, and she felt his match it. "Fine," she said. "We reach the surface first. Then I decide how big a mistake I'm willing to live with." She climbed back onto his neck and gripped the ridge of scales. "Up," she said, "toward the wind." Flint drew in a huge breath and roared not in rage, but in wild, living defiance. The sound filled the tunnel and shook dust from the roof. Then he lunged toward the faint gray light ahead, carrying the voice of the last dragons with him and the one human whose choices could either silence that voice forever or teach the world to hear it. Asterisk night hit them like cold water when Flint burst out of the tunnel. He tore through a curtain of roots and loose rock and crashed onto wet grass. Rain slapped his scales. The city's outer wall rose behind them, lit with torchlight and the faint blue curve of the shield. Alarms still rang, thin and distant. Mira clung to his neck as he slid, then shoved himself upright. His wings snapped open for the first time in years. Rain rolled off the dark membranes. "Can you fly?" she shouted over the wind. His answer came as feeling, not words, not far. Not yet, but he tried anyway. He leaped. Wings beat clumsy but strong. For one breathless moment, they rose into the storm. The city dropped away under them, towers, lights, streets she had always seen from below. Bolts of blue light shot up from the wall. One sizzled past her boot. Another grazed Flint's wing. Pain burned through the bond. Myra's shoulder screamed as if hit. He banked hard, away from the wall, away from the lights. Rain and darkness swallowed them. His wings trembled. They glided more than flew, losing height with every beat. "Mountains," she gasped, half with her mouth, half with her mind. She sent him the picture he had once shown her. High peaks wrapped in cloud. A jagged line at the edge of the world. There he answered with a tired pulse of agreement and turned toward where those peaks lay hidden in the night. Time blurred. Hours, maybe days, slid together into gray mornings and black nights. Flint flew when he could, glided when he had to, and walked when his wings shook too much. Mira walked beside him then, hand on his neck, cloak pulled tight. They crossed broken fields and old roads. Once they hid under a fallen bridge while soldiers on horseback thundered past above, shouting orders she tried not to hear. Wanted the dragon and the girl. Toasters appeared in walls and town gates. Simple drawings. A young dragon with chains, a thin girl with a mark on her arm. She saw one from a distance and looked away fast, at night. When she slept against Flint's side, the bond filled with dreams. Some were his, sky cold, the touch of another dragon's wing. Some were hers, the glass shop, Jaren's laugh, the temple bells. Some were a mix of both, always at the edge of those dreams. The same place called to them, a high cliff with stone dragon shapes carved into it. Looking out over a drop so deep the air turned blue, the edge they reached it at sunrise. Clouds wrapped the peaks like torn cloth. Flint climbed the last rocky slope with slow, heavy steps. His sides heaved, but his eyes were bright. The cliff really did feel like the end of the world. The ground simply stopped, dropping into spinning mist. Far below, waves crashed against unseen stone, and there, lining the edge, stood stone dragons, dozens of them. Some with wings spread, some folded, all facing the empty sky. Mira walked to the nearest. Moss grew in its cracks. Its stone eyes were half closed. She laid her fingertips against its chest. For a second, nothing. Then a faint spark touched the bond. Weak, barely there. A sleeping ember. Another one, she whispered. Like you. Almost gone. Flint moved beside her, claws scraping the old rock. He bowed his head toward the statue, slow and respectful. More sparks flickered at the edge of her mind. She turned her head and felt them, one for each stone dragon, threads stretching out under mountains and seas. Last voices, the feeling said. Waiting for what? She thought, before he could answer. A horn blew behind them. Mira spun. On the slope they had just climbed, riders appeared. Banners snapped in the wind. Some carried the crest of her city. Others bore signs she did not know. At their head rode Captain Ronan, Counselor Verdon, their cloaks whipped in the cold air. We tracked the storm, Verdon called. And the bond. Her eyes went from Mira to Flint and back. You ran far, child? Mira's heart pounded. You came to drag us back? She asked. Darren's face was hard, but his voice was rough. We came to keep you from starting a war. Right. Behind them, other riders raised crossbows and strange rods that hummed like the ones in the temple. If you wake more of them, Halvor's voice carried from the second row, no city will be safe. Do you want the old fires back? Whole kingdoms burned so a few monsters can stretch their wings. Wind tore his words wide, but the fear in them stayed. Mira looked at the stone dragons. At Flint, at the drop beyond, in the bond a choice formed, simple and heavy. One path. She stepped back. She let Flint live as the last of his kind, hidden, until time or hunters finally took him. The sparks under the statues would fade, quiet and safe. Humans would forget dragons were ever more than a warning in a book. The other path. She raised her arm, opened the bond, and called. The embers would flare. Dragons would wake in far places. Humans would see them in the sky again. Some would reach for weapons, not peace. Say the word, Halvar shouted. Promise to let them sleep, and we will spare you and that one beast. Break it, and we end you both here. Mira's marked arm burned. Flint pressed his forehead against her shoulder. No pictures, no pressure. Only one clear feeling, your choice. She saw Jaren at his glass table, kids in the market, guards who had lowered their weapons when they saw the truth in the cube. She also saw chains, pits, and the long, slow dimming of dragon fire. If I let you die out, she said softly, I'm choosing comfort over a whole people's right to live. No answer came. The decision was not his to make. She stepped onto the very edge of the cliff. Wind whipped her hair back. The world fell away under her boots. Mira, Daron yelled, don't you dare. She lifted her marked arm. Red light flared under her skin, bright as sunrise. Threads shot out in all directions, racing along the invisible web of sleeping hearts. Above the sea of mist, her voice carried clear. If dragons burn this world again, she said, it will be because we failed to learn, not because they woke. Then, with Flint's heartbeat slamming against hers, she gave the web one word. Both in her heart and through the bond wake. The world held its breath asterisk for one long heartbeat. Nothing happened. Mira stood on the cliff edge with her arm raised, red light under her skin. Flint's chest rose and fell behind her. Riders watched from the slope, weapons ready. Stone dragons stared over the drop, cold and still. Then the first statue cracked. Dust fell from its chest. A thin line of red-gold light seeped through. Mira felt a faint new heartbeat join Flint's and hers. Another followed, and another. Across the ridge, stone dragons shuddered. Shells split and crashed to the rock. Under the stone, dull scales showed, then brightened as fire woke inside. They're waking, someone whispered. Crossbows dipped. Captain Duran lifted a hand. Hold, he shouted. Priest Helver stared. She will burn the world, he hissed. Break the link. Shoot her arm. 2 archers aimed. High Counselor Vurin rode between them. Lower those, she said. If you fire now, you start the war you fear. More dragons tore free, coughing dust and smoke. The bond roared in Mira's head. Fear, pain, confusion, sky. She dropped to one knee. Flint moved in front of her, shielding her from stone and weapons. His mind pushed into the chaos. Strong where hers shook, he sent one clear feeling along the web. Here, listen. The noise eased. The new voices steadied, not gone, but no longer tearing her apart. An old dragon stepped from its shell, larger than the rest. Scars lined its face. Pale gold eyes fixed on Mira, then on Flint, then on the humans. A weight, like a mountain, pressed into her chest. Who wakes us? Why now? The feeling came. A human, she said, and a dragon who refused to die alone. Old memories brushed her mind, cities burning, chains, long dark sleep, and now. She asked quietly, "What do you want next?" Wind filled the pause. Then the old dragon sent a new picture. Dragons in the sky over fields and towns. No fire falling, humans watching but not running. A wish, not a promise. Behind her, Darren spoke to Verne. If we turn back, they'll call us cowards. If we attack, we make that picture a lie. I came to stop a child from waking dragons, Veron said. She already did. So we changed the task. She rode closer to the edge. Can you speak for them? She asked Mira, and will you let us speak to them? Not with chains. With terms. Mira stared. You want to talk? I want to live, Vern said, and I'd rather live beside thinking creatures than over their graves. Halvor's knuckles were white on his staff. You would trust them? No, Varen said. I will trust her. Every gaze turned to Mira. Flint rested his head against her back. The old dragon bowed its head a little. We answered your call, small one, it sent. Our fate sits in your hands now. Mira pushed herself to her feet. The mark on her arm glowed like a coal. I can't promise no dragon will ever hurt a human, she said. Or that no human will hurt a dragon. She drew a breath. But I can promise this, she went on. If either side turns the other into weapons or cages again, I will stand against it. With this bond, with any dragon who agrees, with any human who remembers today instead of old fear. The words scared her even as she spoke them. They also felt right. Vern nodded once. Let this be remembered, she said to the riders. On this cliff, dragons woke, humans aimed, and one girl stood between us long enough for us to think. Duran let out a breath. Better than the stories we grew up with, he said. Halvar said nothing, but he did not raise his staff. Mira turned to Flint and the others. Go, she whispered into the bond. Find skies that aren't full of fire and chains. Learn new stories. Leave some of your strength here. We'll need it. Flint brushed her shoulder with his snout, then spread his wings. One by one, dragons stepped to the edge and leaped. Wings opened over the mist like dark sails. Some circled high above. Others vanished into cloud, threads in the bond stretching but not breaking. Mira watched until the mark on her arm dimmed to a soft glow. Beside her, Fern asked, What will you do now, Stormchild? Mira's smile was tired and small and full of something new. Learn how to live, she said, with a dragon's fate in my hands. In my world and theirs. High above, a young dragon's roar rolled over the sea, not in rage, but as the first clear note of a new song. The awakening had begun.